It's a house show.
It's where we're at. It's a house show, guys. It's been a while. It's the end of the year, the beginning of a new year, and
It's 2021.
we just recorded a couple episodes. So we figured we'd talk about what we watched, saw, enjoyed, looking forward to in the very wide and diverse world of wrestling.
Kind of year in review of 2020.
Yes. Yeah, and we're not the guys that only watch wrestling. You can tell that in the first 20 minutes of our show where we, talk about
food and
Madonna,
movies
Mariah
and
Carey,
music and all those other things.
Yes.
But this is a wrestling show, so we do talk about wrestling.
Yeah.
And we always cover things way back in the past, but we do enjoy current wrestling as well.
History X.
To a point.
Yes. The X is an infinity sign. We just keep on moving.
That's right. And so we thought we'd just come together and kind of talk about some of the things we enjoyed or didn't enjoy even.
Yes.
And maybe even some things that we're looking forward to.
A weird year in wrestling. A sport.
Weird year in the entire world.
Yes, I'm going to call it a sport, but a sport that is based on getting a reaction from the people that are present in a year where for the most part, nobody's present.
No one is present.
Yeah. Wrestling isn't acting. People probably have said that in the past, and they're wrong, and this year proves that.
Yeah. So, let's just kind of, because kind of talking, you don't know really what to say. So, if you haven't figured out from what we talk about a little bit, but Michael is very much New Japan.
Yeah,
I love my New Japan as well.
I stick to that for the most part. I'm not opposed to watching things.
Shane's learning about New Japan, and he watches some AEW, and Michael watches some AEW and WWE as well.
If I'm at home and the pay-per-view is happening that evening, I will put it on and watch it. Maybe not as intently, but it'll be on, so I do catch a decent amount of the bigger shows.
Yeah. I'm probably more in tuned in the AEW world than the other two, and Shane's probably a little bit more in tune with the WWE than the rest of us. So we're kind of a well-balanced machine here, and kind of covering the
major
stuff.
Promotions
exactly.
Of the world.
So we just kind of wanted to talk. What are some of the things that we really enjoyed
I think we should do a round robin, starting with Shane, where you just say a thing, we'll jab on it, and the next guy gets to say a thing.
Well, I'll start at the beginning of the year then.
All right.
The first thing that pops in my mind that I was super excited about while watching the show happened at the Royal Rumble with the return of one Mr. Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge.
Oh, what a great moment.
Yes.
The entire Royal Rumble match.
Oh, yeah. The Royal Rumble this year.
Or at least the men's one.
Granted, it was one of our last shows with a live crowd, but just the production of all of it was awesome.
I'm struggling. I watched it. I'm struggling to remember it. And to me, Edge is part of the Brood. I didn't catch any of his superstardom, so that moment where I know it was cool and everybody popped for it, but it wasn't the same for me as it was with you guys.
You didn't have the heartbreak of watching the Monday Night Raw he had to retire on.
Yeah.
And seeing the emotions that he went through, feeling them yourself, and then having this surprise moment happen all these years later when you just assumed it was
forced retirement
lost.
At the top of your career.
Yeah. And him popping back out, in the middle of the Rumble, the music hitting, you could see the emotion on his face, to where it was like, oh my God, I'm actually back here.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where it looked like he was going to break and shed a tear, or it may have just been my own emotions
projecting
bouncing back off
it.
the TV. Yeah. But yeah, just that.
It was the glare.
That
the
moment.
glare of the TV.
That moment that you didn't think was going to happen, we had Shawn Michaels return all those years ago, and it was an awesome thing. But this one was
Similar to Daniel Bryan's return.
Yeah, yeah. But Edge was twice as long as both of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was something that we just assumed would never happen because it had been almost a decade, and that's all we had heard was, no, he can't come back. He won't come back. He, is injured and
Indefinitely.
cannot be fixed.
How did you feel about what programs he went into throughout the year?
I mean, I enjoyed the build-up to a lot of the stuff that he did with Randy Orton. The build-up, unfortunately, for the most part, was better than some of the matches. Granted, we only had 2 matches, but the first match they had at Mania was
probably one of the worst matches.
Yeah,
that I've seen all year.
They went too far. They went too long.
Yeah.
And then they turned around and named the next match the greatest match of all time and had that to live up to before they actually even got in the ring to do it.
And I've said it multiple times, and I'll probably say it again at some point, that they don't name that match that. People look very favorably on that match. But since they did name it that, it had high expectations, and it never was going to reach that.
No.
Yeah. It's like putting out, I mean, I'm sure they do it all the time, but it's like, the sequel to the movie. With the sequel to the movie, it's going to be so much better than the first one. And how often do you get a sequel that is better? But you don't have to say, it doesn't have to be better. You just can't say that it's better.
No.
Because then people come in with Knives Out.
How about you, Michael?
Oh.
Give us something that you really liked.
This is one that I haven't seen people talk about as much. And for me, with New Japan, I know that Wrestle Kingdom is the beginning of January. But to me, it's the end of that cycle.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to really go there at the moment because Wrestle Kingdom is tomorrow.
You're probably
So
here. It probably has happened as you've listened to
it's a
this.
full year. A full year ago is when this happened, and it's the end of that year. So it's like, it's January, so it counts. But I'm just gonna forego that for the most part and talk about stuff after that. And one of my favorite matches of this year was, I believe it was B Block. So night 2 of G1, Tetsuya Naito versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. May have got the most fuck yes, this is wrestling, this is the wrestling that I want. As opposed to there's been other shocking things that have happened, but this was just exactly what the fuck that I want most of the time. You can't have it all the time because then it wouldn't be special, but I think that this match is one that's not talked about as much as I enjoyed it. I feel like there were people oh yeah, that was really good. But I was it's Hiroshi Tanahashi and fucking Tetsuya Naito. And they put on an incredible match that had me, jumping up out of my fucking chair. And Tetsuya Naito pinned Tanahashi. Tanahashi is in a down cycle, but is by no means incapable of pinning anybody he's in the ring with. So that is a big one for me that I feel was overshadowed and not talked about.
I mean, I feel like people did recognize it when it happened.
But yeah,
I think the biggest issue, especially with this year's G1, is that there were a lot of matches that were really good, but I never felt like any of them hit that great status.
I think this is the one that did that for me. This was the one, and it was because it was early and it was night 2, but I think this was fucking magic. I was ready for the G1 to happen, and this was the first match that wowed me.
And Sam, I have to go back and look because I never got to watch.
I mean, that match, I did really enjoy that match. I think my favorite G1 match was probably Shingo and Will Ospreay.
Incredible match. I don't know if I like it more, but I'm just basing this on body reaction.
Yeah.
And that was one that got me fucking going. which is what wrestling's about.
It's exactly what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
And then of course one that's I don't know how you kind of rate the match, but it's going to always be memorable.
I know you're gonna say, and this is a huge one for me.
And it's Taichi versus Ibushi.
Kick fight.
Literally the entire match is kicks.
Them trading kicks. They trade kicks.
That's all they do.
It's incredible.
And yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Like, I knew I had heard about it before I watched it because I was, I don't always watch like the day of. I'm usually a couple weeks behind or so. So I had heard about it, and I was just like,
whatever.
Okay, how is this really going to be that great? And then I'm just sitting there like, I'm just like mesmerized by them just kicking the crap out of each other.
See, I watched it early enough to not know, and just like watching it and being like, okay, they're kicking each other. They're only going to kick each other? They're only going to kick each other? I was like, okay, well, at some point it'll come to a breaking point. Somebody will do something else. No. They just kick each other. And the balls that takes, especially in front of a crowd that's like minimized and urged not to yell as to spread virus.
Yeah.
Fucking, like, hats off to Ibushi bringing his craziness in a, like, palatable, like, New Japan way, as opposed to, wrestling a fucking blow-up doll. And the other great thing about that is it was towards the end of the G1, and it played in heavily to Ibushi's matches.
Yeah.
Spoiler, he beat Taichi. But, like, the kick match, man. Whew.
So what do you give an audience that has seen everything? You give them something they've never seen, like a match that is all kicks. I like that.
Yeah, it was fucking crazy. I love it.
Very crazy. Moving over to AEW, the obvious answer is Omega and Hangman versus the Young Bucks back at Revolution. That match, it's the first plus 5-star tag match ever by Meltzer.
It was probably one of the more enjoyable AEW matches that I saw all year because there was that Hangman Kenny tension, which, like, I'm not super involved in because I never really believe these guys.
Yeah.
Which is a problem for me.
The tension hadn't hit the boiling point there. Like, it was just kind of bubbling underneath, but it wasn't completely there yet.
No, this was like the first time where, like, it, like, raised eyebrows on a big stage, I guess.
But you literally have 4 guys who, I've been watching for at least the last 4 years in Ring of Honor and New Japan. Just like Omega's the top of his game usually, and this match was one of the few matches that he was at the top of his game during this year. The Young Bucks are always,
Young Bucks well.
Yes, that is exactly it. Because if you watch enough Young Bucks match, you know exactly what's going to happen at certain points. Mm-hmm. But it's still entertaining, and they do it so well.
The Young Bucks are kind of, to me, the Harlem Globetrotters of professional wrestling, which might sound kind of shitty, but the Harlem Globetrotters are incredibly talented and do things that other guys, that actual basketball players can't do and have no business doing. It's just that it doesn't resonate with me as much as it does with other people, but that's styles.
I totally understand when people say, they think the Young Bucks are not good because they just don't connect with that style of wrestling.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say they're not good. They're good at what they do.
Exactly. That's exactly.
And what they do has obviously touched a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Because
there's like 2 promotions in the United States, essentially, with television deals of any substance, and one of those is on the back of like a handful of guys, the Young Bucks being 2 of them.
Yeah.
So I remember watching them years ago on TNA when they were doing the Generation Me team, and I knew something about them stood out that, these guys are going to be big. There was an immediate comparison to the Hardy Boys, obviously.
Absolutely.
But there was just something different about them that I could see them taking off. I hated the Generation Me name, so I'm glad the Young Bucks finally came along. But
yeah, most people don't typically get the first gimmick or iteration correct.
No.
Before we move on, though, I do want to throw a couple other matches out there that aren't really... They're in NXT matches.
Yeah.
We want to throw out Walter and Ilya Dragunov. If you have not watched that match, stop what you're doing right now. I'm telling you to stop this recording.
Yeah.
And go watch it. I literally think it's probably my favorite match I've watched this year.
It was the best non-New Japan match that I watched this year. Easily and better than a lot of New Japan matches that I watched this year. It's a wrestling match, but it has the shoot energy of earlier professional wrestling, but also has a lot more energy. And these guys aren't on cocaine.
No.
Sorry to out you, old school wrestling, but this Dragunov guy has the energy and charisma and fight that him being that much smaller than Walter was still compelling. Even for somebody that might have an issue with smaller guys getting over on bigger guys because it exposes the business. Jury's out. Fucking business has been exposed. But I understand that potentially taking you out of it. But you believe this guy 100% of this match. As soon as he comes out, he looks like a threat.
And then another one is the Finn Balor Kyle O'Reilly match at a takeover for NXT.
So I was trying to remember which takeover that was. That's what I was looking, because that was going to be the one that I was going to say too.
I have been a big fan of Kyle O'Reilly for a long time. I saw him back in ROH and New Japan doing the Red Dragon thing with Adam Cole and all that, and always felt like in the Undisputed Era he kept being pushed into the tag team, and I was just like, no,
more.
Put him as a singles guy.
He's not Adam Cole was not there. He's probably bigger than Adam Cole.
Oh, he's definitely bigger than Adam Cole. I understand Adam Cole being the leader of the group and being the world title contender of the bunch.
But I was the founding name.
I'm okay with if Kyle is all he ever does is North American title in NXT. I'm okay with that.
That's fine. Just make him the gatekeeper.
But he needs to be in singles, and it was kind of his coming out party to a lot of people probably in this match against Finn Balor. He lost, but
Dragunov lost, and it didn't matter.
Exactly.
That guy.
More people know about Dragunov.
I knew nothing about him. Heard about that match. Meant to watch it. Watched it a couple days ago, and then put it on again earlier today. And I'll probably watch it again in the next week. And not a guy that rewatches a lot of matches.
Yeah. But yeah, that's another match that just high up there on the list of matches that I definitely feel like people should, if you haven't watched it. Which,
absolutely.
If you're listening to this, you probably have watched it.
Yeah.
But if you haven't,
stop and go
watch it.
Yeah, I'd seen that one before
the
Dragunov one, and I took too much time to watch the Dragunov Walter match. And when I did, I was just not kicking myself, but truly amazed. I was like, yeah, I'm sure it's good. And then I watched it, and I was like, no, this is legitimately perfect.
Yeah.
It looks like a fight, but it looks like a fight within the traditional rules of wrestling.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of go on to the stuff that we were kind of disappointed at in 2020.
Shoot.
Just kind of throw something out there.
I mean, as a guy that really only strongly keeps up with New Japan, it is the interference I was fine with Evil taking the title. It was shocking. I thought that was great. I think that every single match after that, waiting for Dick Togo to show up and choke somebody, and it just happening continuously. It's like
just any ref bump.
Let him.
There's one in every match.
Yeah, let him. Yeah, as soon as Red Shoes is in there, there's ref bump. But as soon as he can, let him pin somebody clean. Let him go in there and be a badass. He's believable as a big, strong boy. Let him be one. And when you do that, it's like, okay, well, I get it, but it is kind of frustrating and kind of a disservice to old Watanabe.
Absolutely. Shane, what about you?
Oh.
I mean, it literally can be anything. It doesn't have to be a match.
No, just a thing that you were like, enough of this, please.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to pinpoint one specific match, so I'm just going to go for one specific show. And Monday Night Raw, for the bulk of 2020, has just blown. Not for lack of, I'd say not for lack of trying, but it appears a lot of times it was for lack of trying. I mean, they had some good stuff early in the year, but it was like once the COVID situation happened, Raw didn't really know how to bounce back. So it was just the same frustrating, what the fuck am I watching this show for each week, to the point that I just stopped wanting to watch altogether. And I'd let a few weeks go by and stick to SmackDown only because... What
was the frustrating thing? Was it like not following up on
It was just everything. Storylines sucked. The competition sucked. What the writing and creative, it was just they weren't trying. Or if they were trying, then I'd hate to see what they passed on, because if they passed on all of that stuff and gave us this shit, it's just been a whole lot of bad.
Yeah, in the last 2 years, when I was paying more attention to WWE, before the Fox swap over, I basically, if I watched either of the shows, I watched SmackDown.
So I mean, SmackDown's definitely been the better show.
It's one of those things where it's like, I had to even then I was not interested.
The Raw Women's Championship, once Becky Lynch was gone, it didn't matter anymore, and they spent the last 2 years building that up. That belt main evented WrestleMania.
I mean, the Becky thing was like lightning in a bottle, where it's amazing. They didn't even particularly handle it as well as they could or should have, but it was just like a runaway train.
Yeah.
And it's like hard to get that again now that she's gone. And honestly, good time to have a baby, Becky, because like it's not easy to get over right now. And when she does come back, and if she comes back and she comes back to a full crowd, can you imagine that monumental pop?
Yeah.
It's going to be
a thing.
So for me, and this is kind of, I'm going to be calling out some people here. Gatekeeping. Hey guys, it's all wrestling. Like, if you enjoy one thing, then enjoy it. There's no need to put down the other thing.
Yeah.
Like, who cares, really?
I have strong feelings about some of the promotions we've talked about, but I've been very nice here, because we're not reviewing these shows week to week. It doesn't do me any good to say that I think that, if I'm like, I think that this promotion sucks, and I think that what's that? We're talking about good stuff and bad stuff, and keeping it personal as opposed to just shitting on what somebody else might like. I don't want to yuck your yum, and vice versa.
I mean, if Shane said that he liked Retribution, I'd be like, okay, but
yeah, but that's friendly ribbing.
Yeah, exactly.
We're also not.
I'm equal opportunity, where I give all of the promotions the same amount of love and hate.
Yeah, if you like it, you like it, and you don't, you don't.
Exactly. I mean, I end up watching, I mean, the Wednesday night wars. I feel like there's so many people that are just like AEW's better, NXT's better. I'm just like, I watch both of them, and I enjoy both of them,
and
for the most part.
And I would say that week to week, it's a crapshoot because both of those shows have wild inconsistencies.
Oh,
and
definitely.
One match is the difference most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that's me personally. I think that one match is typically the thing that would sway my thumbs up or thumb down.
Yeah, exactly.
Because unfortunately, it's typically only one match, and that's to me kind of a bummer. But it is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So, literally, if you're out there and you hate on people for liking something else that you don't like, I don't feel like WWE has done a great job on their weekly shows. But if Shane were to say that he's loving it, I'm not going to be like, oh, you're stupid. Like,
No,
it's pointless for me to do that.
At least not while I'm here.
What I would do is ask what he liked about it. So
tell me what you liked about it.
Maybe I can understand or be dragged in. A lot of these things are characters and people, performers that have been around for a really long time, and like that stuff ebbs and everyone's career ebbs and flows, and it can add up in a way that is compelling to you if you find those people compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
So now that we've gotten our disappointments out of the way, our gripes of 2020.
I didn't even talk about all the other interference. I just kept it to the
I kept it to
Watanabe.
In New Japan, there's
Evil,
lots of interference.
Yes.
It feels like.
It's all happening from the same place, but it's happening with everybody that is in that faction.
Exactly. But who would you say is the best performer or favorite performer even of 2020? Who do you feel, I mean, even if you want to highlight someone that, has just improved over the course of the year?
That's a tough one.
I mean...
You know what I can't ever stop thinking about?
What can you not stop thinking about?
Hiromu screaming in the middle of the ring for about 2 minutes straight, and how it gave me goosebumps. Hiromu in general, is about as good as it fucking gets. Checks every single fucking box, and I hope one day he can turn heavyweight and be the face of that company. But that scream of the fact that his friend turned and him not being able to process it and just guttural scream in the ring was man.
Oh, this is a tough one.
I mean, do you...
Oh, go for it. If you've got one.
I mean, for me, best performer...
Master Wato.
Definitely not Master Wato.
Aww.
Best performer of the year for me is... I mean, it seems kind of trite, but it's Kenny Omega. Him and Hangman Page won the tag team belts, I believe, on literally the first or second show of 2020. And this entire storyline has built from that point forward, where they had these ebbs and flows of their relationship with the Young Bucks, and that being come to a head at that pay-per-view, them still having issues, and then losing the belts to FTR, and then going into and having a singles match to determine the number one contender for the world championship at the next pay-per-view.
I mean, it's easily the most consistently and longest running thing in AEW.
Story,
yeah.
Probably in every promotion, if you think about it. I don't think there's a year-long story that's really been told at any promotion. even
Yeah.
New Japan, which
Yeah.
New Japan does a pretty good job of telling long stories.
Theirs are a lot more subtle than
Exactly.
anything that AEW has ever or will ever do. So it's a little bit of a different build.
Yeah.
But as far as like traditional like American wrestling, that's the only storyline that I'm even aware of that I have any interest in, and I absolutely cannot wait for Adam Page to take that belt from him.
And I mean, I'm looking forward
And
to it as well.
a guy who doesn't even watch the show
Because
regularly,
I love Hangman Page.
I want Adam
Absolutely
Page
love the guy.
to lay Kenny Omega the fuck out and take that
But
belt.
Omega's now the world champion, and literally in the 2 weeks after that, they've opened up this whole new world, basically, and AEW and Impact are kind of crossing over. Omega is going to main event the Impact's next pay-per-view.
You know what that's good for? Impact. Impact needs all the help they can get, and good on them, and good on
Here's
for
the thing.
being elevated that way.
Impact
That's a huge elevation.
has had a great year. I don't watch their weekly show every week or by any means, but I've watched all their pay-per-views. They always have really good pay-per-views, and
They've had a newsworthy year as far as stuff that they've done there.
they do a great job. Ever since Don Callis and Scott D'Amore took over Impact, they're still on a television channel that no one gets.
Yeah.
So they don't really get a whole lot of views. And people, I think, still feel that when they think Impact, they think TNA,
And
they
that
think the
whole roller
trash
coaster, yeah.
with Hogan and Bischoff that was there. It's not that. It's much more athletic and think X Division style stuff that you saw back in the day when it was really good. The X Division stuff. That's what every performer is basically bringing at this point in
Yeah.
Impact. And Impact is very fun. I mean, they
I'll have
do
to check out some Impact.
the
I'm sorry for
American
sullying the
style.
name.
They do the American style of storytelling sometimes. So there are definitely stories that like don't hit.
Yeah, they try out some goofy stuff.
But
Is what you're
You
saying.
can
right?
only go into the undead realm so many times.
Oh God.
no
realms,
literally,
please. No realms.
That
Just
is
the
one
realm.
That is
One
one
we're
of
all
the
living
sillier
in.
storylines that they do.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm interested in. Is the one where the
But they've
realm
made
we all
up
wake
for it
up in.
with a lot of the changes that they... I mean, hell, they had the first... some people hated it. A lot of people loved it. They had the first female...
Woman.
Yeah,
to
but
be
Tessa
world
Blanchard
champion.
is a badass, so it's kind of cool.
Exactly.
Like if it wasn't Tessa Blanchard, like not if it like it can't be fucking Rio. Just can't be.
No,
it can't be. Like
No.
that's just like. But Tessa Blanchard has the the father, and she's
Yeah,
probably
father
one of
and
the best women
stepfather.
wrestlers on the planet, and she's a badass. So it's like if you're gonna do it, at least do it with somebody that's credible.
Shane, did you think of something?
Yes, I was going to say, character-wise, back when she first started, I hated Becky Lynch because I thought she was pointless because they didn't do anything with her, and then they turned it around.
Those stupid goggles.
Yeah. And then for the last 6 years, at least, Roman Reigns has fallen into that category, and this year they finally got it right, where they took him off of TV, stopped overloading and forcing him down our throats. It got it to the point where we just weren't expecting him to show back up.
Well,
and then
they didn't take him off TV. He asked to not.
He asked to be off, but they didn't mention his name at all.
That's true.
They kind of erased him from the surface and just let people go about their business until the time was right to have him come back, and then they totally flipped the script on him, which they should have done
Many
all
years
those years
ago.
ago.
As soon as he takes that like bulletproof vest off, I'm like, this guy's a fucking star. Like,
Oh, yeah.
that's all it took.
It's
I
it
think
is
that that's a
literally
huge
the
part of it.
best thing that is in WWE right now is Roman Reigns. And if you had asked me last year if I wanted to watch a Roman Reigns match, I'd be like, no,
Yeah, not at all.
absolutely not. I don't care one bit about
But
Roman
now he
Reigns.
looks like a fucking star.
Yeah, and he's in the process helping elevate others. You've got Kevin Owens, which is back in the spotlight now again because he's actually, being used relevantly. You've
And then,
got Jey Uso, who
yeah.
is, he's was forever the Uso that nobody could remember his name, because he wasn't married to Trinity.
Yeah, that's right.
Where's Naomi been?
We're hoping she shows back up at the Rumble.
I always like her. She's like super athletic and a fun baby face.
Yep. But yeah, these people that they haven't figured out what to do, all of a sudden they're all figuring out what to do with them together, and that makes me happy because I've been sitting on my couch forever saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, and now they're finally doing like 2 of those things.
Samoan Shield, baby.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, let's look forward to 2021. Is there anything that you want to see? A prediction or just anything really?
I want to see less Bullet Club interference, and I want to see Kazuchika Okada come off of his down cycle.
Drop the money clip, bro.
Drop the money clip, which I think might be happening in the next couple of hours as Wrestle Kingdom is about to happen. If he doesn't finish Ospreay with a Rainmaker, that'll be a great moment for Will Ospreay to pin Kazuchika Okada. But there's just as much of a chance for Kazuchika Okada to come off of this lazy down cycle, have to pull deep inside of himself and pull out that short arm clothesline for a win. And when that hard cam zooms out for the Rainmaker, is a moment that I'm really hoping for.
I remember the first time I ever watched a New Japan show and that happened. I was just like, whoa, what just happened? Because they don't do camera movement for anybody.
No.
And then he does this Rainmaker pose and it zooms out, and I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I was like,
jarring.
Okay, Okada's a big deal.
Yeah. It's even if you've never seen the man wrestle before, as soon as that happens that it's a thing. And not having that for basically a whole year, this might not be the spot for it to happen. Maybe he stays in this down cycle longer and pulls it back up later in the year. I don't know. That's something that I'm looking forward to, that moment of him pulling the Rainmaker back out, because when it happens, it's going to mean a lot to a lot of people. He's the best wrestler on the planet.
Absolutely. How about you, Shane?
Aside from just having crowds back,
Yeah.
That's
that's the blanket statement.
My main thing right there.
Yeah. Believe me, me and Michael were planning on going to Madison Square Garden this
for
last
a weekend
year
just to catch a show,
to watch New Japan in Madison Square Garden,
and
that all got canceled. And
think of the NXT house shows we would have went to. Those would have been fun.
Because those are so much fun.
They're so fun.
So much fun.
I never got to go to one of those.
Well, when it happens, we'll all be in the
front row,
baby.
Let's do it.
It's worth it.
Cheering for the refs.
Oh yes, gotta cheer for those refs.
I don't know. I'm still, as much as people dump on him, I'm still intrigued on what the hell they're gonna do with the Fiend. Yeah,
I'm curious to see what they're gonna do as well.
They've set him on fire.
I would say that I'm interested, but not excited. Just morbidly curious.
And see, I am excited because Bray Wyatt, when he first debuted, all I could think of was, just from when he was Bray Wyatt, I should say, not when he was Husky Harris and all those others. But there was just something that stood out about him that he granted he grew up in a wrestling family, so he understands the business, but there was just something about his character and how he presents himself in front of a crowd that was very reminiscent of a Jake the Snake, a Kevin Sullivan, these devious masterminds from years gone by, and I want to see him take that
and add it to the Fiend. Maybe take some of the goof edge off. Or what?
Not so much the goof edge, but just be this dominant powerhouse that Jake the Snake for the longest time was. I don't want to use the word gatekeeper, but
gonna add a caveat though to your thing.
Okay.
Don't put the belt on him.
No.
He needs to be as far away from the belt picture as possible.
Yeah, because it's inevitable. If he has the belt, then he's gonna have to lose the belt, and it's gonna fuck everything up.
Exactly.
Let him just wreak havoc.
That's exactly what he needs to be doing.
Let him Samoa Joe everybody. Where Samoa Joe just goes in psychologically, cuts promos on people, and attempts to mow them down, but typically eats the pin.
Yeah.
But he's compelling and believable when he's doing it.
With Bray, at least for me, they've had him just right on the edge, and then
A misstep.
a misstep or a wrong turn, or
Something that nobody is stoked on.
or he's
which is a misstep.
supposed to have this weird match where he's in one costume and Finn Balor's in another costume, and then he's gets, I don't remember what he got sick with, meningitis or mono or something, and then it fucked up an entire program.
Oh, were they going to do a demon match?
Yeah, it was going to be Demon versus Sister Abigail. This was 2019 or 18
yeah,
or whatever.
it was a couple
but-
years ago or so.
Okay, so before he came back as the
Yeah.
Fiend.
But with his little moment at WrestleMania with John Cena, that one kind of re-sparked my interest of they can do all kinds of wild and crazy stuff with him and make it effective. Some
Well,
people
they
are
just
going to like
lit
it,
him on
some people
fire.
are going to hate it, but I want to see them do more and better with him.
Man, I've literally sat here for like the last
It's
couple
not
minutes.
as easy as you think.
And for AEW, I feel, I mean, I don't even know what, I mean, I want Hangman Page to continue to, move up. I mean, he's right there. I think that storyline is probably going to be one of the better storylines. To be honest, I'm curious what they're going to do with the Dark Order.
Yeah.
Actually.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, with the passing of Brody Lee, which I can't even bring myself to watch the tribute show because
Yeah, I read about it. That was
And-
heartbreaking enough.
I'm just like, I know I'm gonna probably bust out in tears when I watch it because, I mean, I didn't love Luke Harper Brody Lee I thought was a good character.
It was the best thing about the Dark Order, which I don't really have any positive things to say about.
I mean, I feel like talent-wise, the Dark Order is really good. In watching, like, Evil Uno and Stu Grayson are an amazing tag team. John Silver is one of the most charismatic people that no one has ever heard of. I mean, his stuff he's gotten over because of BTE. I'll admit it. But if you watch some of his matches, he's very good in the ring as well.
Yeah.
But
I guess I'm basing this off of like the early Dark Order, even before Brody came in, where I was like, "What is this goofball
once
bullshit?"
Brody Lee showed up,
Got better.
it shifted a little bit to
Yeah.
being a little bit different. They kind of had a rough start, the Dark Order, but
Yeah,
now
I
with the leader gone, unfortunately,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I mean, they may just continue to be a thing without a leader. I don't know. But I'm curious to see what... I do feel like all of them are probably going to be pushed because it's something that, like, they literally just had, like, the highest rated show. I mean, I know it was a tribute to Brody Lee, but all these guys were in front because every single member of the Dark Order was on that show.
Yeah, so like just
And won.
not taking advantage of those eyeballs, even though it's a bad situation, a horrendous situation. Like it's like we got to continue on with this in some way.
Yeah.
They can't show up next week as like Evil Dose or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like you can't just like you can disband the thing, but like should you?
I mean, they could break off into, separate little smaller groups or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is possible.
But I'm just interested to see how that plays out.
I am very interested. I mean, just overall character development in AEW is just interesting to me because, I mean, the whole Omega thing, that storyline's not technically over. Hangman Page storyline with Omega isn't over.
No.
So there's all these little spinning plates that they have, which are great, and I'm really curious to see if they're going to keep hitting on all cylinders, and hopefully they can. A couple of those plates that aren't spinning quite as well, maybe they can get those going as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we kind of wanted to come here and talk about.
I'll
basically,
do an honorable mention of curious about the Empire.
The Empire. I'll even throw one.
Empire.
Will Ospreay, Jeff Cobb, and Great O'Khan in New Japan. They just formed a.
Yeah, O'Khan has a match in the next 48 hours with Hiroshi Tanahashi. Hiroshi Tanahashi has no problem at this point in his career laying down to people.
Yeah.
But if O'Khan pins Tanahashi, we know that means a lot for this guy in this company.
I mean, for WWE, a guy that I'm curious to see what they're going to do with, Keith Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Keith Lee.
Because I feel like he should be main event quality, and there's been rumors that that's going to happen. Who knows?
I'd like to see them do a reverse draft or not necessarily even a reverse draft, but an equal draft where they take some of the Raw and SmackDown people and send them to NXT, because we've already learned that when they send them from NXT to the main roster, it fucks everything up for their characters.
So you're just like, wouldn't it be nice if Aleister Black could just have a really good match in an NXT ring again?
Well, I mean, not even just Aleister Black. Send Jey Uso down to NXT.
Oh, okay.
Or,
I got you.
Get some of these guys that
Yeah, Jey Uso going down there and wrecking shop and taking a title elevates him and gets him a spot to actually.
Don't look at NXT as
NXT
as a punishment.
That's kind of hard to say.
I don't know if it does elevate him, because
that's true.
If it elevated people, then
It would be
all these people coming up from NXT would move right into.
But it's a different
spots.
creative.
Yeah, but then you go back to that same. You go back to the creative that wasn't treating you well in the first place. I don't know. I mean, I see where you're coming from, and I would love for it to work, but I don't trust them. That's what it is. It's about trust.
Exactly. But thank you for joining us, listening to our rambling about 2020 and what we're looking forward to.
Tell us about it, Power or ROH, things we haven't really kept up with. I've heard ROH started to do some pretty good stuff for this year.
Are you as angry as I am that Glow didn't get renewed? Let us know.
Oh yeah, I mean,
anyone looking forward to Stephen Amell's new heel show where he plays a wrestler?
Oh, that's right. That is starting up soon.
Who's Stephen Amell? Oh, the Arrow. Green Arrow.
Yeah. But if you like this episode or any of our other ones, please rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts at. You can always email us at wrestlinghistoryx@gmail.com if there's anything that you ever want us to talk about. I'm hoping that we get to do a few more of these house shows in the new year.
Hell yeah.
Make us do a Stardom review.
Oh, please, God, yes. That would be what I want. And you can always find us on Twitter at WrestlingHistoX. That's Wrestling HISTOX.
Well,
we'll talk to you next time.
that was a house show.
Laters.